What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do a bikini chat with your bikini girl, OG over here, Kara Corey. I am a WNBF bikini pro. I have a lot of experience with the competition stage and want to continue to share my knowledge with you guys. So I wanted to go through some tips for you guys on what to do after you've competed. So many people choose to compete. You get the laser focus on your show, your first time competitor, and you fail to think about what the heck happens after you compete. What does that afterlife look like? And where do I go from here? And I think that's a common question. We're so focused on that one day on stage, and then it's like you don't know what to do with yourself after it's over. You can start to go through a roller coaster of emotions, kind of not knowing what to do with yourself. And I like my clients, at least, because I do work with a handful of bikini competitors in addition to my lifestyle clients. I like my clients to be prepared for what's to come after show day. I know it can be hard to know when you haven't hit the competition stage just yet, whether or not you're going to foresee more competitions in your future, but it should be something you're thinking about because that's going to somewhat dictate your goals post-competition. I like to recommend people think about other shows that may be close to the show that they've got their vision set on. Usually have one show you're kind of laser focused on, but maybe also have some other shows in mind, because what I've seen happen time and time again, client competes, they hit the stage, and they feel like, dang it, like I just wish I could have nailed my posing a little bit better, or I wish I could have maybe been a little bit tighter on my diet. I know I could have given a little bit more. So instead of having those regrets, sometimes having some backup shows planned, if it works for you with the location that you live in, sometimes it does require traveling, but having some backup shows, because you may get to the point where you get off stage and you're like, I want to do it again. You may not think so, but it is somewhat of an addictive sport. I think most of us that have done bodybuilding feel that addiction, that kind of healthy, can become unhealthy, but that obsession with competing. And I usually recommend keeping your shows closer together versus spreading them out. It gets really awkward if you're like, yeah, let me compete again in 2 months. It can be done, certainly, but you're really not going to make a ton of progress in that period of time. In terms of your diet, you have to figure out what to do. Are you going to reverse for a bit? Are you going to continue to diet down? So if you can find some shows to have on backup in case you do feel that itch to jump out there again, then that will be plan B for you. Maybe you do compete and you know after that competition you don't really want to compete just yet. So what's next for you? I think it's really important that you have identified some other goals that you want to focus on in that post-competition world. Because even for those of us that have a love for fitness and a love for training, it very quickly feels stale after a competition because you had that focus on that set goal. So even if you are someone like myself that just loves to train every day, it does feel like you're robbed a little bit of the passion for it. You're going to the gym and you just don't have that same drive. So what I suggest for you if you are feeling that way is, number one, switch up your training plan. That's one option. Maybe if you've been doing the same training plan for a while, sometimes just getting a new training split feels so good. It can kind of re-energize you. Or if you're just not in the mood to change up your split, that's where sometimes it does become motivational, if you're already not working with a coach, but to have a coach or have someone write you up a new split. Just get a fresh perspective, a new set of eyes to change things up for you. Sometimes that little shift can just reignite something different in you and help you still be present in the gym, because you want to remember this should be part of your lifestyle. Although competing is not a lifestyle sport, most of us that do it, we do it because we love to train, we love to be fit, we love to eat healthy, we like to count our macros and what have you. So all of those things you don't want to give up just because you're not competing anymore. You want to still incorporate those things in your life, but switch them around to a different focus. That way you're not stale with it and you don't just totally throw in the towel with it. Another thing I'd recommend doing for those of you that do compete and want to figure out what is next for you is, number one, I do always suggest getting judges' feedback, but I want to re-emphasize the fact that judges' feedback is not everything. I've heard some horrible judges' feedback. I've seen judges' feedback where it doesn't even look like they were looking or they were even talking about the person that was in front of them. You have to kind of take it with a grain of salt because it's only as good as the judge and the advice they give. It is a subjective sport, and I feel like it becomes even more so subjective with bikini in the bikini division because we still see differences in what judges like. Do they like and award the most muscular, most conditioned physique on stage, or do they award the tiniest girl on stage because she looks hot and they want to bang her? I mean, it's really that subjective. I hate to go there with it, but it's all over the place. So I do say get judges' feedback, but at the end of the day, I think it's good after the show is done to really kind of critique yourself and say what you did well, maybe what you could improve upon if you do continue on it, doing this sport in the future. Maybe it's not a year, maybe if a year from now, 2 years from now. It's always good to be thinking about what improvements you want to make. The judges can tell you 8 different things you need to change, but ultimately it has to come down to what you like and don't like, what you want to improve upon. So if a judge said you really need to, you have too much quad muscle, your legs are too overpowering, you really got to shred some of that muscle off of you to do well in bikini, but you love having those strong, badass quads, well then focus on what you love about your body. I really don't feel like you should make changes just based on what some random subjective judge tells you. Maybe you're going to do just that because you feel like that's what you need to do to win first place at your next show, but it doesn't always work that way because you'll have a different judging panel, or even if you have the same judging panel, sometimes they end up placing you totally different. So at the end of the day, the thing that matters most is that you do what you like for your physique, that you focus your training and your nutrition based on your goals with your physique. And post-show shouldn't just be about your physique because you are going to be going through a period of a lot of changes with your body. I would highly suggest if you are going into a set off season, and in terms of bikini competitors, I don't really think there's a need to bulk by any means, but you certainly want to go through a reverse period after your show. I think for most of us, the thought of realistically maintaining those set low macros during a peak week or meal plan, whatever you were doing, to continue that after a show for me has just never happened. That always set me up for failure. It was like, no, I can't do this. And then I would screw up. And even though the screw up wasn't really that big of a deal because you're just hungry after your show, it can kind of really hurt your self-esteem because you start to feel like a failure and that you're a fuck up and what happened, you're not doing this right, and you start to gain weight as you should. It just becomes a total mindfuck post-show. So I really do suggest having a plan for your nutrition based on your goals. It's going to look different for everyone. What I have found personally works best for me after a show is quickly bumping up the nutrition. Maybe you gain 5 pounds within that first week. That's okay. Let's do that because it's better to quickly restore your hormonal health, your energy, your strength, get your fat levels back up in your diet, especially being a female and for males as well. It's gonna impact your hormonal health regardless of gender. But I really think it's worth it. Like, there was a period of time post-show where I felt like, I would assess my post-show life based on how many pounds off stage weight I was. That may sound messed up, but it felt like, okay, if I'm a month out from my show and I'm still only 2 pounds from stage weight, that means I'm kicking ass. No, it doesn't mean you're kicking ass. It means you're probably living in this body dysmorphic world where you think you need to maintain that physique for life, and that's just not maintainable, nor is it healthy mentally or physically. So I really encourage you to screw that. Sure, you want to monitor your weight post-show, but you should gain weight post-show. It's okay. We have to stop making it seem like there's something wrong with gaining the weight back. You should gain the weight back. You don't want to gain it back too fast, of course, because you are in a sensitive spot post-show, But by really upping your calories post-show, you're probably going to have better adherence to your plan, which is going to lead to better consistency. It's going to lead to lack of binging. It may prevent you from binging altogether. It may help you make better and sound nutrition choices versus feeling like you have to fit in all the foods and then you'll figure it out tomorrow and you'll restart your diet tomorrow. I hope that makes sense, but I'm a firm believer in coming off a competition when you have no show in sight, you're done for your season, get the macros right back up there and start to wean yourself back down. Usually on cardio is where I go. I usually like to decrease the HIIT first. Reason being is that HIIT is the most intense for your body. You're going to take the most impact from HIIT, although it's still good to have it in your routine. Usually that's the most draining. So I usually like to back off HIIT 1 or 2 sessions in that first week and continue to kind of move on from there. So with talking about reversing, this is something you can do on your own. I do feel like it is nice to have the support of a coach during this time because the emotions can be a bit all over the place, even if you don't expect it. I do think a lot of that is related to the level of leanness that you maybe got to, your hormonal status, depending on how hard you had to diet to get to where you are. It is helpful regardless of who you are. I always use a coach when I prep to get me through that time, at least for a month. I would suggest, if you can afford it, continue with your coach or plan your coaching package so that it takes you a month out. Nothing's worse than when I hear that folks are on like an 800 calorie meal plan and it still happens to this day, and then show day occurs and they don't hear from their coach ever again, and they're lost and they gain weight and they feel upset and like they did something wrong. And I do feel like as a coach, we do have a responsibility to help people move in the right direction. Maybe someone's not willing or has the extra money to pay for continued coaching, but I usually try to set people up with a game plan. There isn't a secret here. Like, I think a lot of us function in the same way. And I have no issue sharing with you what I think you need to do to kind of move yourself in the right direction, regardless if you're paying for another month of coaching or not. Ultimately, I don't coach people because I'm here for the money, honey. I coach people because I love helping people and I want to help them have the best experience possible, especially with competitions, because it's such a passion of mine. So, if you're able to work with someone, then work with someone, or just reach out to other people who've maybe been through the same thing to kind of get you through that transition time. So beyond the reverse diet, beyond changing your training mechanisms up, you're going to notice you don't have something to put that laser focus on. So I always recommend identifying some new goals that you're going to have post-competition that you can focus your efforts on. You will find that even though you're still doing the training, you're still spending time meal prepping because we love this lifestyle, right? You will find you will have extra time though, and it'll feel almost weird, like a vacancy in your life that you don't have that competition to focus on. So finding new areas of your life that you can focus your goals on. An example for myself, I was working on the integrative and functional nutrition module that I was doing. It's a whole certification. I did not complete the whole certification, but I was working on a module and there was 6 levels to it. And then I started on my pro debut and it was just like, there's no way I have the energy to be reading and taking quizzes and focusing. Like, my mind was just on everything else. And I wasn't able to get through that during my training. So that had to take a back burner. So when I wasn't competing anymore and I was going through the reverse, it was like, okay, let's make something good out of this and put my energy towards focusing on my continuing education again. Let's hop back into that. Let's throw my passion into my other love. Let's throw my passion into my education. And for you, it may be something different. Maybe you're throwing your passion back into, you now have that extra energy to like spend more time with your family, or maybe you were spending time with them, but you were just like, the life was sucked out of you because you were so depleted. Now you can enjoy like activities with your family again or your kids. Maybe there's something different at work you can focus on now that you have that level of energy starting to come back in. And with that being said, be patient with yourself. It's not like a week after show and you're like, your energy is back up there, even after increased macros. You will be hungry. You will be ravenous. There is going to be a period of transition. And I find it usually takes folks anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's reality. It's not going to happen in a week or two where you're just feeling good, you're feeling it. Know that in the post-show world, there is going to be a big chunk of time, probably like the amount of time you spent prepping. It's going to take that amount of time, maybe a little bit more, to feel back at home in your own body and back at home in your own normal routines. And not everyone talks about that, and that is the truth. I recall preps that it took me a good 8 to 9 months to enjoy training again. Now, not everyone is going to be like that. That was me coming off a place of burnout. I was doing competition after competition after competition and being very restrictive in between competitions, so I didn't get too far off. It led to a whole nother level of burnout where I stopped caring about my nutrition and I hated training. I didn't want to do it. I had no passion there. So I urge you to kind of, do some things to prevent yourself from getting there, such as not over competing. Okay, there is a thing as over competing where people are doing back-to-back shows. I get it if you're IFBB and you're looking for those Olympia points, you do what you gotta do. It's almost like a job to you. But for someone that's not at that level, it's not necessary, and you likely are gonna take your body to a place of burnout, especially if you are a natural competitor with no other special helpers in there keeping you going. So I would recommend not doing that. Doing 1 to 2 shows a year, I think, is enough. Or some people do it in the spring, they do it in the fall. Give yourself a little time off, really to make true progress as a natural competitor. It can take a year or two to really see some development and some changes, but that is just my approach. So think about, when you're competing, what is life going to look like for you afterwards? Have some other goals set up, write them out before competition day happens so you're not lost and you're just not feeling so blue, and really think about some things you want to work on post-show. And it doesn't have to just be physically, or it doesn't have to be like a new sport or switching to CrossFit or Zumba. It can just be new hobbies in your life that can fill up that time a bit more. So post-show is just a very sensitive, emotionally charged state, physically charged state. I feel like you're very sensitive to a lot of things. You're very susceptible to going through the post-show blues, where if you don't have another show plan, you kind of feel like you need to plan another show. I like to encourage people, just give yourself that time to come off. Enjoy the high from competing. It's amazing. It's an amazing day. It's an amazing experience. Use what you've learned during that time to better enhance your life, even in other areas outside of the gym. I really feel like I've done that. Competing has enhanced my life in other areas of my life. Even though I haven't stepped on stage in almost 2 years, it's still a part of me. And it will always remain part of you. Just because you don't have another show on your calendar doesn't mean you're not important, doesn't mean you're not a bodybuilder, doesn't mean you're not a badass. So don't fall victim to that. And it can be hard because you do get those blues post-show, but give yourself a couple weeks, give yourself more time than that. But before you kind of feel like you need to have it all figured out, kind of just have those general goals, that list that you may pick from on the back burner, so that after your show, once things calm down, the high kind of like calms down a bit, you can really sort out what your next goals are for your life. And maybe that will be competing again, depending on where you're at in the sport and what the judges thought you needed to work on and what you wanted to work on. And that's okay too. But I just like people to be prepared for that post-show experience, because so many of us only hear and see how fabulous it looks on Instagram and how people get so many more likes and clicks because you're getting shredded. And then when you're in that opposite place where you're gaining the weight back, you're not doing the glitz and glam of competing, it can really take a toll on people. So just be prepared, be realistic about what life after show day looks like and what you're willing to put your body through, your mind through as well. It is an extremely selfish sport. I love it, but it is selfish, and there's no way around it. It takes time away from the other commitments in your life. So think about how you can get back to enhancing those after show day has been completed. I think I hit the highlights for any first-time competitors, or even if you have competed and you just kind of needed that encouragement again. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If you know of any first-time competitors, feel free to share this video with them to give them a little insight as to what they can expect. Feel free to comment below for me what other videos you'd like to see in line with bikini advice or bodybuilding prep, things of that nature. I do still really enjoy doing these videos for you guys, because who knows, maybe I will compete again someday. Maybe not, we'll see. If you guys did enjoy this video, bikini competitor or not, please hit the like button. It lets me know what style videos you guys enjoy. Also, make sure you are subscribed before you head on out of here, because YouTube is funny and likes to unsubscribe people occasionally. So hit the subscribe button. Post notifications is just gonna notify you guys each and every time I upload. I'm usually here a couple times a week, so I hope you guys come back and hang out with me next time. Bye.